The celestial being known as God is the final villain of One Punch Man. One and Murata have made changes from the webcomic to manga to set up his character, all of it building towards Saitama vs God in the final arc, where he will ultimately achieve his dream of having a worthy opponent while simultaneously saving the entire multiverse. In the most recent chapters of One Punch Man, heroes are starting to realize the truth regarding God and his ultimate goal of gaining a vessel. His secret is being exposed, and I'm going to break down every single story and character that knows exactly what is going on and how it's all connected to Saitama's final battle that will change the story forever. But you know what else has to change? Your internet browser. You already know that our good friends at OperaGX are back again sponsoring this video, and you may think you don't need to change your browser, but just like Saitama, it's time to evolve and break your limiters because OperaGX is the GOAT. Firstly, its customization is incomparable. Even right now whilst making this video, I'm using the Cozy Anime mod. It's super easy to install and might be the most satisfying time I've had whilst working. It not only adds sound effects while I type or change the look of the page, it even plays some chill beats while I'm browsing my favorite websites. And if you enjoy multitasking, then you're in luck. Let's say you're watching some peak fiction, but you've also got homework you gotta get done. Pop out the window so that you can keep watching on any tab. You can also log into your favorite social media on the handy sidebar, meaning you can read all the latest One Punch Man chapters whilst browsing Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and more. But I know what you're thinking. You can't be bothered to change all your bookmarks, cookies, browsing history, blah 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 blah. Well, with just a few clicks, you can move all of that over faster than Flashy Flash. So download OperaGX today using our link in the description and pinned comment down below. It all begins with Adam and Eve. In One Punch Man, humans are known as constant environmental beings whose greatest strength is being able to adapt to anything. God has been curating humans from the beginning to adapt to his desire, which is to eventually create a vessel that can hold his power so that he can break free. A My Mask stated to Saitama that the world has been going through many eras to reach the modern era they are in now. Beforehand, people fought against each other for land in wars until the population decreased to the point where everyone began to prioritize helping future generations. This was the catalyst for the first era of change. However, the effects of war had an everlasting change on the world, leading to climate change, causing a rise in sea level, erosion, and environmental toxicity. This resulted in the second era of change, where the population had to migrate to a single landmass in order to survive. But this brings us to now, the final era of One Punch Man, where the constant appearance of monsters has led the human race to their third age of evolution. A My Mask said that in order to fight back and survive, humanity needs an immune system, that being Saitama, the ultimate hero everyone must aspire to be. Thus foreshadowing Saitama's fight with God, as behind the scenes, God is curating Earth in his image to create a changing era that can birth a vessel worthy of him. The first instance we see God's secret being discovered in the story is with Homeless Emperor. In chapter 106, after being screwed over by human society, Homeless Emperor resorted to deleting himself so that he could become one with Mother Nature. But at the final moment, God appeared before him. He confirmed Homeless Emperor's notion that humanity is a harmful existence, and so he was granted godly power through his blessing to make a difference, causing Homeless Emperor to begin worshipping him. The authors, One and Murata, have foreshadowed this countless times via the mural of ancient humans also doing this for a blessing. This wish could be anything the person desires, as Blast claimed. Now, to prove to you that the celestial god on the moon is manipulating all life on the planet, the authors One and Murata cleverly left a clue that we have discovered. We all know that "Let there be light" was said by God when Earth was first formed, which explains why Homeless Emperor was given the powers of light manipulation. Light is the biggest source of energy for all living beings, as the plants convert light into energy which us animals consume to keep living, therefore explaining why ancient animals animals that went extinct are also being sacrificed to please God for his blessing. This idea clearly spans back thousands of years, evident from the fact that ancient cubes from God have been found in Egypt, as seen in chapter 138, which was around 4,000 years ago. And guess what Egyptians used to worship? The sun Ra, who provides light. Therefore, God was worshipped by many different faces and names. Currently, the manga states that the amount of monsters appearing is more than ever before in chapter 172, which leads us onto the next set of characters aware of God, that being Shibabawa and the prophecy of Saitama versus God. Shibabawa prophesied at the end of the world that the entire One Punch Man story has been building towards, and she is always 100% accurate. The Hero Association has acknowledged her prophecy in chapters 30 and 170, but to understand how Shibabawa can make accurate prophecies, we must look at Psykos and how she got power from God. After her defeat in the Monster Association arc, Fubuki, her former friend, went to go and check on her. It was here that she learned the truth of God and where Psykos' madness stemmed from. At the age of 17, Psykos proposed a plan to wipe out humanity and was growing extremely powerful, which led to Fubuki sealing her potential. With the aim of making the group Fubuki and her were a part of larger and more powerful, Psykos began to research a new ability known as the Third Eye. With this power, she'd awaken the ability to see the future, but instead what she got was constant splitting headaches until God showed her the future. This resulted in Psykos having an even more derogatory attitude towards people, enticing her into believing the human race should be eradicated and start from scratch all over again. This led her to form the Monster Association, where she meticulously created Orochi, a monster that was depicted on the ancient mural underground. Eventually, she fused with Orochi whilst being approached by God in chapter 132. She stated that what she saw looked like brain cells, the surface of Jupiter, the structural diagram of the universe, something like God. Time stopped as he looked into her, causing her to feel fear, whilst at the same time, a mysterious power flowing into her. It was in that instant she was enlightened. Bringing us back to Shibabawa, as in chapter 30, it was revealed that as Psykos tried to achieve, she could see the future. This was why her prophecies were 100% accurate, as she could predict floods, earthquakes, and even monster attacks. However, it was her final prophecy that caused the Hero Association to act. She wrote a note stating that the Earth was in trouble before choking to death on a cough drop. Now, the reason this prophecy is connected to Saitama is because he casually mentions that he can blow up the entire planet due to his frustration, and then there's also the fight against Garou that needs no explanation. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Saitama versus God means utter destruction for the planet, but at least his dream's gonna come true, right?
So true.
Using what we've learned thus far regarding the Third Eye's connection to God, which allows you to see the future, as well as Homer's emperor experiencing what is known as forfeiture, being killed by God before his secret was revealed, it wouldn't be far-fetched to suggest that God also killed Shibabawa as a way to keep his existence hidden. This is why God doesn't just choose any old random guy to give power to. He tests how worthy they are through the use of the mysterious black cubes that Blast and his crew are in constant search of. The celestial god preys on the mental fragility of his victims that fall into despair when their human spirit is at their lowest point, with the goal to make them enact his plan of freeing him from his prison, unleashing his full potential. In chapter 156, he attempted to prey on Tatsumaki while at her weakest by luring her in under the appearance of Blast. We learn of Tatsumaki's past with Blast in chapter 182, but this proves how God has omniscience and knowledge of things that are hidden, even knowing people's desires and emotions. However, due to her mental fortitude, she was able to see past God's disguise. Similarly, in chapter 164, God managed to partially turn Garou into his vessel using Bang as a disguise. And although only a partial amount of his power was passed on to Garou, God's terror still ran rampant. This is how far he's willing to go to manipulate his targets. Not only does he take the face and shape of those that people look up to most by searching their memories, he will also lie to get what he wants. Remember when I said that he gave Homeless Emperor power so that he could eradicate humanity as they are a plague to Mother Nature and Earth? Well, we actually have reason to believe that he doesn't care about Earth's well-being at all, and that his desires are purely selfish. This is because after Garou became Cosmic Fear Garou, thanks to God's blessing, he produced attacks that put the entire planet in danger of complete destruction. He even made Garou go against his own ethos, killing Tario. This tells us that even though only a small amount of power was passed on from God, it was enough for him to manipulate Garou into enacting his plan. To make it even more clear, God even speaks directly to Saitama through Garou, saying, "Something that can counter the fist that has turned against God. I guess that'd be the fist of God." However, similar to Homeless Emperor, this ended in forfeiture, as when Garou began using his power to time travel, God took them away and killed him. Now, the reason Garou was chosen by God is simple, as it all comes down to his true goal. During his bout with Saitama, Earth's magnetic and gravitational fields went crazy, resulting in a spatial distortion within the spatial seal that God was trapped in. This is what allowed him to begin crossing over to the real world, as seen by the mysterious thunderclouds in place of his big crusty ass toes. This proved to God that humanity had finally begun evolving to the desired level he needed them to be in order for him to break free. Now this brings us to Blast, the #1 hero who is trying to stop God's seal from breaking, mentioned in chapter 164. Blast has formed a galactic group of heroes that protects the galaxy against him. We can see that a character looks similar to Boros, for example, and from that we can deduce that he's originally from the same planet. Boros stated that he comes from a planet with the greatest regenerative abilities in the entire universe due to harsh climates, which is similar to Earth's current era that has peak amount of monsters appearing throughout the changing eras. This showcases that God has been going from planet to planet, or even galaxies, being an absolute menace. That's why his cube can be found in space as well. All of this caused the formation of the galactic hero group Blast is currently a part of. In his introduction in chapter 139, Blast stated to Saitama, Flashy Flash and Monoko that the cube they found is a communication device from God that creates a rift in the fabric of space whilst also being able to turn humans into monsters. This is what allows Flashy Flash, Monoko and also Saitama to hear God's voice. Because of this, Blast has dedicated his entire life to collecting them so that they can be analysed. Alongside just this cube, we've seen the one amongst the ancient Egyptian treasure, as well as the cover page of chapter 139 that insinuates they've also been found in outer space, like I said, but also the depths of the ocean. In the webcomic, we see one taken from the ninja village, as well as also from the Tsukiyomi facility where Blast saved Tatsumaki. However, in chapter 173, it was revealed that Blast had been in a battle with God for 20 years. However, it wasn't until 18 years later that he came into direct contact with him for the very first time whilst battling Elder Centipede. God attempted to coerce Blast into accepting his deal, but of course my guy stood strong. The reason all this was kept secret, however, was because the Hero Association simply didn't have the power to take on such an enemy. On top of this, not even a single one of their sensors could pick God up, meaning they were at war with a seemingly invisible threat. The only reason Blast was able to face him was because of his ability to manipulate space-time. This is why Saitama is so integral in taking him down, as the only other character capable of such an ability other than him and Blast is Cosmic Fear Garou, who no longer exists. We saw that Blast was in awe and mesmerized witnessing Saitama's power for the very first time, dwarfing the entire galactic heroes combined, as they had to use their powers together to redirect Saitama's serious punch from Earth. But with this overwhelming power, one person that isn't very happy about it is Dr. Perfoy, aka Metal Knight. He too is also aware of God, as he warned Child Emperor there are other evils out there eyeing the world. When humanity finds itself at its weakest point, they will strike and take everything. Do not trust anyone. Now, as we stated earlier, God preys on the weak and then strikes and pretends to be your friend. That is why Dr. Perfoy said that no one can be trusted. Zombie Man was also someone else who caught wind of him during chapter 153, stating that they must do everything they can to prepare to face him, which is when some of the other heroes learn of Saitama's power and God after their meeting in chapter 173. These include Sitch, Sekengar, Genos, Amaimask, and Flashy Flash. Zombie Man confirms that Homeless Emperor was silenced for revealing God's secret, and so the Hero Association have continued to act in preparation for Shibabawa's prophecy, even going as far as allowing Garou to become a candidate as a hero despite the backlash it would cause, all because, as Blast said, interactions with God's dimension has rapidly increased. There might be something that is summoning him here. That something, of course, being Saitama. So, Saitama's kind of like the whole reason that the end of the world prophecy exists altogether. You see, his limitless power is drawing the celestial being known as God to Earth. Thus, the more powerful Saitama continues to grow, the more he directly influences the rise of monster threats. After all, he is the fist that went against God mentioned in chapter 164, remember? Thus, God wants to target Saitama as he is the only person that has broken the limiters God placed on humanity by his own accord, making him the perfect avatar to house all of God's power, creating a spatial distortion within the seal big enough to free God for good. However, there's one problem with God's plan. As we've established all throughout this video, God preys on the weakness of the human spirit. Dr. Genus spent his life creating the House of Evolution in the hopes of creating the perfect evolved being, but gave up on his dream after learning that Saitama had achieved this naturally. This is what sets him apart from the rest of humanity, as Saitama himself admits that his human spirit is what he trained to enter the new era and is helping others such as Genos understand that it's his heart that makes his spirit stronger. All of this bolsters Fubuki's claim that Saitama has ascended and is an evolved human compared to everyone else on the planet. This is why Saitama is ultimately the one that must defeat the celestial being known as God once and for all. Fubuki is currently researching the idea of God as she saw the root of Psykos' fear, aka God in her memories. Now, if you want to enjoy even more peak fiction, then watch this video explaining every character that knows Saitama's true power.